You're listening to The Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things with Lyndia Grant.
Well, good evening, Radio 1 listeners. Thank you for tuning in to The Lyndia Grant Show. I'm so happy to be here with you all this week. I am celebrating my 75th birthday coming up this week, May 6th. And today we're recording on April the 28th, and the day that the king came to town from England. And in our second half of our show, we're going to have Dr. Gail Nunlee-Bland from Howard University. But we're going to go to Dr. Julian right now to talk about what's been going on this week, starting here on Tuesday. Dr. J.
Sister Lyndia, happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. 75, I want to do it just like you. So you have a wonderful, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Let's get it on.
All right. Tell us what you got for this week.
So, earlier this week, on Tuesday, something very unusual happened. King Charles III spoke about what he called the tale of two Georges. Mm-hmm. On one side, you had George III, the king that Americans rebelled against. And on the other side, there was George Washington, the slaveholder, I have to say that, who could have been a king but chose not to be. So when we look at this, and we look at being clear, Americans did not rebel against King Charles. They rebelled against King George III. Different kings, different centuries, but a connection that we want to explore. And it connects directly with the most important documents in our history. It's called the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta was signed like in the 1200s. But guess what it said, Lyndia? It said no kings. It limited the power of kings. And that's really important. We always talk about our connection to the United Kingdom, but the Magna Carta basically said there will be no king. So we've had no kings rallies, no kings this, and we've had a president who's pushed up against that. We will have no kings. We've rejected the notion of kings, but we have a president right now who wants to come back and reclaim that. So we can't allow that to happen. And I think, in my mind, that King Charles invoked the Magna Carta to remind this president that we don't have no kings. Now, the Brits don't do it like we do it. Mm-hmm. Americans, we scream and holler and go out on the street. They're very contained. Mm-hmm. But when a king comes to the United States and speaks to a joint session of Congress and invokes the Magna Carta, what is he saying? Mm-hmm. Down, boy.
That's right.
He didn't say it like that, but that's what he said.
But that's what he meant. Mm-hmm.
And so to me, that was a very meaningful moment. Mm-hmm. Now let's move on to, of course, everybody's talking, will be talking for the next several months about what happened on Saturday at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Been to it before, and, the place is always super crowded. It's a combination of political figures, entertainment figures, corporate figures, and somebody came armed. Long guns, short guns. The bottom line is it makes us rethink issues of security. It really makes us rethink how safe we are. But there's another thing. There's a little thing going on the internet saying, was this real? How did that man get all those guns into the Washington Hilton?
Exactly. It doesn't sound right.
Did he check in with those guns? There was nothing to prevent him. So, there may be more to this story than we're hearing right now. There really may be more to this story than we're hearing right now. Blessedly, nobody was hurt. Few people were jangled, but nobody was hurt. Blessedly, they found somebody, and I'm just going to ask: is it the right somebody? You have a dude who used to be a teacher. Right. Now he's radicalized. I'm not blaming. I'm just saying, and I think also just be saying This is so unprecedented. The president has had 3 attempts on his life, and they haven't taken more precautions. I'm just saying.
I know it's been a lot of talk about that out there on the social media.
Been a lot of speculation, and we're not going to give speculation
because we don't know, but it is what it is.
But we are going to say that this is highly suspect.
Yes.
That this man was not caught anywhere. That's what worries me. How did he got a long gun? He got a bunch of knives. Anyway, the White House Correspondents' Dinner, big question right now. The president says he wants to do it again. He says let's do it within a month. I don't think they have the bandwidth to do it within a month. I think we write this one off, figure it out, and there is no reason for you to use this to say, oh, well, that's why I need a ballroom.
Yeah, I agree, Dr. J, because being an event planner for major special events, it's way too much involved for them to do that over in a month.
Exactly. So let's just the party's over, say goodbye. Now, meanwhile, back at the ranch, of course, when we will have a new chairman of the Fed by May 15th. We talked about this before, but what we know is that Jerome Powell's term is over as of May 15th. Tom Tillis was going to block Kevin Warsh, who was the Trump nominee, unless the Department of Justice vacated any investigation against Jerome Powell. So they agreed to do that. So that's done. Amen. But now we're not changing very much. We're not changing very much because Warsh is very closely aligned with Trump, which Jerome Powell was not. And what that means, quite frankly, is that we still will see manipulations from the Fed. But here's the good news. Kevin Warsh, or whoever is the new chair of the Fed, is not a unilateral dictator. There are 12 people on the Federal Open Market Committee. They're the ones who set the interest rates. It's all 7 members of the Fed. Footnote, President Biden appointed 2 Black members of the Fed, Lisa Cook and Philip Jefferson. But there are 7 members of the Fed, plus there are Federal Reserve regional banks. Always a New York person is there, and then there are others. And given that one monkey don't stop no show. Now, Warsh will have enormous influence, but he won't have enormous power. So we'll see what happens. Now, meanwhile, back at the ranch, again, always back at the ranch, what we need to think about in terms of this is security and safety. And people are not feeling safe. And this is a problem. This is a problem. People are not feeling safe. People are feeling disturbed. And the Fed thing just makes it even worse. People think the system isn't working. Gasoline prices today, Tuesday, Lyndia, are up to $4.24 a gallon nationwide. In California, I've seen as high as $7. And so people are feeling insecure. And when the economy feels rigged, democracy feels very optional. And that's what we have right now. Now, speaking of the Magna Carta, in other words, no kings, the Department of Justice has yet again indicted former FBI head Comey. They said that he sent some signal online to kill Trump. It's nonsense. But this is, again, what happens when there are no checks and balances on a king. What you will end up with is a president who has personal grievances. He fired his good friend Pam Bondi because she would not indict Comey because there was nothing to indict him on. So he fired Bondi, and then he got this other guy who seems to be much more aligned to him. Comey has lawyers. Comey is a lawyer. All he's doing is costing this man money and time. And it's really a shame, but it is where we are. It literally is where we are. So,
but you know what I always say, no publicity is bad publicity. He'll make some more money on books because he'll get away with it because he has not done anything. I mean, I saw it on the news, those little stones out there on the beach. It's just going to make him even more famous.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So where are we? How much time do I have?
You have about 5 more minutes.
Oh, goody, goody, goody. So what we want to talk about then, as we look at this, we're looking at the king being here. We're looking at the Fed. The next thing we want to, and we're looking at Comey. The next thing we want to look at, quite frankly, Lyndia, is what's happening with on the Hill. Um, the government is still in, part of the government is still in shutdown. Part of the government is still in shutdown. What do I mean? ICE, the Homeland Security, has not been fully funded. Democrats want revisions to ICE. They do not want this craziness. Republicans are holding the line saying, we're not going to change anything. Homeland Security, ICE, TSA, they're all not funded. Their leaders are saying, we're almost out of money. The president allowed an extension, but now the extension is over with. What are we going to do next? My thought is that the Republicans might agree to some modifications to ICE. They're still talking about picking up people. They're still talking about parents and children being picked up. Why not relent on this? The answer is they're not going to relent because they don't have to. Mm-hmm. So here we go again. A subset of TSA and ICE workers may not get paid. We know what happened with that before, and we know the hardship that it invokes. And the other thing we know is that when you have people who have not been paid, they don't act like they've been paid. You know?
They sure don't.
That's number one. And number two, when people are not being paid, many of them leave. And so we're talking about restarting a whole set of trainings and other things, and they reduce the hours that they're training people for. So this becomes an issue, but these are issues that are Trump-induced. Let's just call it what it is. These are Trump-induced issues that don't have to be the case. Why does ICE have to behave like the Gestapo, the secret police? That's kind of like where we are. So as we look at this time, we look at where we are. We're looking at our country being scolded, frankly, by our parent.
Right.
UK is our parent, and they're saying, y'all need to behave. Don't forget the Magna Carta. You know,
it was wonderful.
I thought it was great. I'm not a big monarch fan, but I always admired the way that the Brits hold themselves in.
And it wasn't a divided audience. It wasn't Democrats against Republicans. It was all one.
And people that he got 3 or 4 standing O's, which were great. The whole thing was great.
Yes, it was.
But what does that leave us with the 2 Georges? The George who we rebelled against, the George Washington who essentially said he did not want to be a king. That was the first president. Now the 47th president says he doesn't want to be a king. It throws all of our principles back in our face. Yes. It says, I'm not, but we know that we know he doesn't read, he can't write. Although I must tell you that today I learned that he actually can keep to a script.
Yes, he did, didn't he?
He kept to us. Have we ever seen that, Lyndia?
No, I was shocked, but he did it.
He kept to a script. He didn't start no stuff. He didn't start yelling and hollering. He didn't do anything wrong. Let's just give him credit for that.
Yes, he did.
He did that, and so
he done good.
He done good. But most American commoners, and I would call our president a commoner, are intimidated by royalty. And then what he had in his face was royalty. Plus, they have been friendly. They have been friendly. And so that friendliness, I think, extended to the performance that we saw today. I hope that he can do this more frequently for more people, because today was really a high note for this president.
Yes.
Now, it was a high note, but it was not a win. We still have lots of issues with the ambassador. with Ukraine, which the president did, the king did mention Ukraine. There's still issues with Iran. But here's what we know, that in the international world, for once, our president comported himself appropriately.
Yes, it was good.
And number two, the Magna Carta, no kings, was thrown back up in his face.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. J. That was a great recap of what happened this week. Thank you so much. And we're going to go.
Thank you, my sister, and happy birthday again.
Thank you. We could go to our commercial break, and we'll be back in a moment.
If it wasn't for my care coach at AmeriHealth, I probably wouldn't be so healthy right now. As a man, you know we don't get checkups or see a doctor regularly anyways. It's probably just a man thing because none of my partners go either. We know we should, but we just don't, and hope it works out.
So what changed for you?
AmeriHealth assigned me a care coach, somebody that gives one-on-one help, answer questions, explain things, and help set my appointments. She also helped me understand what having high blood pressure really means and ways to manage it so it doesn't kill me. It ain't nothing to play with. If you're a member of AmeriHealth, ask for a care coach. I'm glad I got mine.
At AmeriHealth, if you need a care coach, you can have one. Just call us at 1-877-759-6224 to get connected. 1-877-759-6224. This program is funded in part by the government of the District of Columbia Department of Healthcare Finance. Mayor Muriel Bowser.
Washington Informer religion columnist Lyndia Grant.
Who Moved My Cheese is a book about two types of people, those who accept change quickly and move on, and those who hem and haw and try to figure things out. They didn't see change coming and waste valuable time trying to figure out what happened. How did this happen to me? Let's call this group procrastinators. The lesson inside the cheese story is simple. Life is change. Gerther said it best when he said, if I accept you as you are, I will make you worse. However, if I treat you as though you are what you're capable of becoming, I help you become that. We must change and keep moving. The Bible tells us to seek and you shall find, knock and the door will be open unto you, ask and it shall be given.
Read more in the religion column of the Washington Informer, an award-winning African-American newspaper. We don't report crime or gossip, just positive news. Pick up the Washington Informer or visit us online at washingtoninformer.com. Call 202-561-4100 for more information.
This is Frank Smith with the African American Civil War Museum in Washington, D.C., located at 1925 Vermont Avenue Northwest on the Green Line. Did you know that a recent study found that children who visit museums do better in school and in life than children who do not? So parents, teachers, and preachers, let's get moving. I promise you, if you bring your children to the African American Civil War Museum, they will be inspired by the images that they see. They will be impressed by our living history reenactors who are always available, and they will be involved in our scavenger hunt that takes them throughout our exhibit. That's the African American Civil War Museum, 1925 Vermont Avenue. Our hours are 10 to 6:30 on weekdays, 12 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. See it, be inspired.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lyndia Grant Show. And we are back. As you all know, November is National Diabetes Month. And I read recently how diabetes is out of control all over the world. It's not just here in the United States. So I want to honor the memory of my mom during this month. And every week I'm having a guest talking about diabetes. I gave Councilman Frank Smith last week because it was Veterans Day, but this week we have got Dr. Gail Nunlee-Bland from Howard University's Hospital's Endocrinology. She's the chair. And then next Friday, we're going to have Dr. Sharita Hill Golden from Johns Hopkins. So I am excited about both of these doctors coming on. Dr. Gail Nunlee-Bland is a doctor at several hospitals. I'm going to keep it short because I want her to use most of her time to talk to us about where we're trying to go. Dr. Gail Nunlee-Bland, talk to us today about where you see us in the United States of America, and in particular the DMV, with this type 2 diabetes. What do you got to tell us?
Well, as you stated earlier, type 2 diabetes is on the rise throughout the world, and particularly in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. We have some of the highest rates of diabetes throughout the country. And particularly in DC, Ward 7 and 8 actually have higher rates than most in the District of Columbia. You know, when I looked at the statistics of diabetes, type 2 diabetes on the map, and you look at just typing in Washington, D.C., it says that our rates of diabetes is around 7%. But when I drill down into the wards 7 and 8, those rates were 14, 15%. So they're twofold higher than the overall rate. And so it gives a misleading picture of Washington, D.C. as not having high rates of diabetes. But in those certain wards, the prevalence of diabetes is extremely high.
And let me just add, Dr. Bland, because it happened to me and my family, lack of knowledge, which was why I was so excited before COVID when we used to do those wellness circles for AmeriHealth, teaching more low-income neighbor citizens of the District of Columbia what it is that you just said. Most people don't know. They think type 2 diabetes is like cancer. They think it's a death wish and that it's nothing you can do about it. So they keep eating the same way. They don't go out and exercise. They don't know that can make a difference. What people don't know can kill them. And so the key to me is education about this disease in all over the country. More people need to know what it is they can do about it. And I mean, they need to know it's real and not just some words we're saying.
That is absolutely correct. Eating a healthy diet. I always tell my patients, your plate, half of your plate should be vegetables, and divide the other half in half, where a quarter of it will be your starch and the other quarter will be your meat. And we tend to eat foods that are highly starched, like rice, potatoes, pasta. Those things tend to increase your blood sugars, whereas we should eat more vegetables, where one, it can prevent you from developing diabetes, even if you have a family history of diabetes. That healthy diet is one thing that we have shown throughout the times, the history, and the research that we can prevent type 2 diabetes by watching what you eat, exercising, trying to get 30 minutes of exercise 5 days a week or 150 minutes a week. And it doesn't have to mean that you have to run a marathon. It could be simple walking. Well, even if your neighborhood is not safe, you can turn on the TV, the videos, do exercises with that. You can do chair exercises, but just keep moving and eating healthy can prevent diabetes or make your diabetes easier to control.
And you know what I want to add to that too, Dr. Bland? I know you said all that, and that's what people really need to do. But some families have it run in the family, it's in the genes, but every person in the family won't get it. Because what they need to understand is that some kids are born with the gene and some are not. So I just wanted to bring that part of the study in that I had read about, that's going to be in my column this week coming up, and talk about it too, about the genes.
Yes, you bring up a valid point that genes do play a role. If you have a parent with diabetes, that increases your risk for developing diabetes. And as you stated, we don't always get the same gene pool. But even if you do not get the same gene pool, it's still a good idea to have a healthy diet and increase in physical activity, because there are other things that can develop. You may be more prone to heart disease, or you may be more prone to getting a stroke or whatever. And we do know that healthy lifestyle is one thing that can at least prevent or at least prolong your life in terms of you eventually getting these complications.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, once people know or they have checked and you don't have it, or if you do have it, that's when people need to understand that they can do a lifestyle change. That is really important. And I don't like for people to hear us and say, oh, well, that probably worked for somebody else, but it won't work for me, because I know I have a girlfriend whose sister died on the table having her kidney dialysis. She was one of those ones like my mother. Her mother died with 10 children, but she died from complications of type 2 diabetes, and both her mother's legs were amputated, and she was one of the ones that got that gene, and she ended up having problems, including having dialysis. But she wouldn't stop eating her candy bars. She wouldn't change anything, and she died. So I'm saying all that to say that even though you may not want to, because you've been living a long time and you've been living your life the same way, if you want to keep living longer, the only way it's going to happen is you have to make that change. Help me with that.
That is so correct, that it is important to make those changes. And, you know, having diabetes is not a death sentence. And I want people to understand that is something that you have control over. And you, as the person living with diabetes, you can control it. And I always tell my patients that it is you that can make that change. It is you that can control it. It is you that can make those choices of eating healthy. It is you that can do that exercise. We can give you all the medicine in the world, but if you do not make those changes, then the complications that you mentioned are something that can happen: the blindness, the amputation, the dialysis. And we know that all of those things can be prevented. And studies have shown that people with diabetes who care for themselves have the same lifespan longevity as those who do not. Mm-hmm. And studies have shown that over and over and over again.
Yes. So that's the reason why I wanted to have you on here again this week. I'm kind of pleading with people to listen and hear what's being said. Know that you can. When I first got hired to do those workshops for AmeriHealth, I had been invited to a speaker at Matthews Memorial to be one of the speakers at a church in Southeast DC, Matthews Memorial. They were having a health fair. And AmeriHealth was there. Their people were there. Karen Dale was there, the president. And I just told my mother's story, the same thing as I'm saying now, about how we didn't know and how sad we were and how we wish we had known. So I was trying to encourage some of those elderly ladies that was there. And one of the ladies broke down in tears, and she stood up and she appreciated hearing it because she didn't know. And I have to go into a little bit of drama to make people listen and let them understand saying these words is not just all. You got to do it. And then we're going to have to close after that. You give us your closing.
Okay, my closing is that diabetes is not a death sentence. You can control it, and the way that you can control it is lifestyle with diet, exercise, and medications that can help control your diabetes. We have many more tools in our toolbox to control your diabetes, and this is something that patients should understand, that it is in their hands, and the health field, we're here to help them to achieve those goals.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Bland, for helping me talk to the people about type 2 diabetes, whether they have it or just someone in their family. And almost all of us know someone who does. Thank you for being my guest today.
And thank you for the invitation, as always.
All right. That concludes the Lyndia Grant Show for this week. Good day.
Thank you for listening to the Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things with your host, Lyndia Grant.